Hello there.
Hello there.
Welcome back to Mudwalkers. My name is Chris. If you'd like to support me financially, support me financially, check out the link in the description below for patreon.com. And yeah, just generally hit the subscribe button, the follow button, wherever you're seeing this, because that helps me a lot. Do subscribe. This is a passage that comes up with surprising regularity, and from the perspective of my opponents, I can kind of understand why, but the passage just isn't that relevant, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. First things first, let's read the verse. Make them linen undergarments to cover their naked bodies. They must extend from the waist to the thighs. These must be worn by Aaron and his sons whenever they enter the tent of meeting or approach the altar to minister in the sanctuary area, so that they do not incur guilt and die. Okay, there are a couple of different angles to look at here, so let's take a look. Okay, so while this is a rule for once, I'll give them that, it's a very specific rule for a very specific group of people, for a very specific task at a very specific time. This is not a rule for all humanity, it's just a rule for Israelites. It's not, a rule for Israelites in general, just for Levites. Not a rule for Levites in general, just for the sons of Aaron, and their descendants. And it wasn't for all of them, it was just for priests. And it wasn't just for priests, it was for priests that were on duty in the tabernacle. So it's just not relevant to the lives of most people at most times. It's very, very particular. Another aspect of this is that Yahweh doesn't explain the rationale behind this rule. He just kind of lets it hang there. So any reasoning we give about the rationale behind the rule is by its very nature going to be speculative. All right, let's see if I can get a physical representation of this. Okay, so you can see my navel and my mid-thigh here. You can see anatomically the kind of problem this would present. My own speculation on this passage is that since sexual intercourse with priests was so rampant at the time, and the fact that that's, not okay, and that was very, very super duper pagan, it makes sense to me that the rationale behind this rule is that Yahweh does not want his priests to give in to the temptation to conform to the pagan priest's way of doing things, i.e. having sex with the worshipers. And, uncovering or seeing nakedness is a Hebrew euphemism for sex, but all of this is, again, speculation because the passage does not give a rationale for the rule. In case you're wondering, yes, this is a spear, and it's for a video that I'm doing later on in the day, and I didn't want to carry this and a walking stick, so there you go. My walking stick for this video is a spear. It's the Cold Steel American hunting spear. I'm kind of excited about it. Haven't hunted with it yet, but yeah, very interested to see how it does. Very interested. Okay, back to Exodus, Here we go. But before we do, let's take a look at today's sponsor, Patreon. This episode of Mudwalkers has been brought to you by my generous supporters over on Patreon. Shout out to Nature Him, Todd, Edward, John S., Joseph, Charlie, Lionheart, Adam M., Edward T., Jay Good, Cyan B., John W., Clifton M., None Here, Marty, Austin S., Martin C., Benjamin M. This person, it's getting long. JLDL, Coolest Nudist, coolest name on the board by the way, currently, Coolest Nudist, awesome name. Gary, Corky S., Kent L., John F., Jeremy H., Richard M., PJ H., Tom L., David B., Joe S., Cedric, Chim K., and Dennis R. Guys, thank you so much for everything you're doing on Patreon. You've made this video possible. You've made my channel possible. You're keeping my work sustainable, so thank you. The reason why I'm able to make content this often and at this level of quality is because of my patrons. I can't thank you guys enough. And yeah, like I said, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube or follow on Vimeo, etc. But on YouTube specifically, if I reach 1,000 subscribers, I can start to contemplate monetization, which will help to propel Mudwalkers forward. That'll not only help, me pay my bills and live my life, but it will also help you because you'll get more and better content from Mudwalkers the more that I make. Yeah. Back to the video. Arrgh! The conventional view of this passage is that the priests were not supposed to uncover their penises on the altar because it's just wrong to uncover or see a penis. But I fail to see how that works here, because that rule doesn't show up anywhere else in Scripture. So it's hard for me to understand why an unmentioned rule serves as the basis for a mentioned rule. If keeping the penis hidden were indeed so crucial, so vital, so central to human morality, you would think it would show up somewhere in the Bible, but it doesn't. That gets back to the big question, by the way, which you can find up here. Or is it here? I think it's here, actually. There we go. But if it was indeed so crucial, you'd expect it to show up somewhere, right? Well, a little something like Exodus 45:9, right? And you shall never allow a female breast or the buttocks, anus, or genitals of any person, male or female, ever to be seen by any person except that person's spouse in absolute privacy, except by that person's spouse in absolute privacy or in necessary medical or hygienic situations. Okay, I'm messing with you. Exodus only has 40 chapters. But I made you look though, right? But if we did have a statement like that in the Bible, then that could serve as the basis for this kind of rule, and it could even universalize it across the human species. But we don't have a rule like Exodus chapter 45, verse 9, because Exodus 45:9 doesn't exist, and the rule doesn't exist anywhere else in the Bible. So we're left without basis. So again, my position on the verse is highly speculative, but so is the conventional view. So without some kind of clarifying passage that does have a clearly spoken, clearly taught rule, this passage just does not seem relevant to the modesty naturism discussion. So as it stands, I think that this passage is mostly irrelevant, but I think if we're going to lean this passage one way or the other, we should lean it in favor of naturism. That sounds weird. Let me explain. So I think that this passage leans in favor of naturism because it only serves to highlight that when the genitals are important, they're mentioned. It only serves to show that the rest of these rules about covering the body don't exist. They don't appear. The existence of this rule only serves to highlight that fact. So I think if it's going to lean in either direction, we should lean it in favor of naturism. Oh, that's kind of cool looking. I've got like a stripe over my face. Look at that. But looking at this from a slightly different angle, when we want to argue about whether or not murder is wrong, we don't hop, skip, and jump halfway across the Bible to look at this verse implying that and this verse saying this thing that may or may not be relevant. We don't hop and go all over the Bible looking for that. We just go to the one verse, right? Thou shalt not murder, because that kind of says it all, right? After that, you're just finding other supports for that rule. But when it comes to modesty, people jump all over the Bible looking for this, that, and the other thing because the rule just doesn't exist. It's kind of telling that they have to go so far and find so little because it just goes to show that the rule doesn't exist. So priestly garments, good. Making a rule out of it for everybody, bad. Relevant? No. Naturism? Yes. Another aspect of this is that Yahweh doesn't understand, my goodness. So, priestly underwear, good. Making a rule out of it for everybody. So, priestly underwear, good. Making a rule out of it for everybody, bad. Undergarments, good. Rule, bad. I'll get it. Just give me a second.